everybody! Are you looking for that silver lining in the midst of a pandemic? If so, in this video, I'm going to talk to you all about how COVID-19 may actually help you get off your dream school's waitlist. If you're wondering who I am, my name is Brooke. I've been coaching the SAT and the ACT for over a decade and a half. I also am an independent college consultant. Mostly I work with students to try to help them put their best selves forward in their essays, fun, awesome stuff like that. If you want to learn all my secrets for the SAT and ACT, I've helped coach students to perfect scores. Go to SupertutorTV.com. We have video prep courses there. I've also written 2 books on the ACT math section. They're called the best ACT math books ever. You can find them at Amazon.com. And totally free, we have a mailing list, SupertutorTV.com/subscribe. You can subscribe to our mailing list. We will send you videos that are new. Sometimes we send you deals occasionally, not all the time, but a few times. We also have free information on social media. A lot of things are going on right now with this whole COVID-19 situation. So I will be updating you guys with any articles, lists, information that I hear down the college admissions pipeline, and I will post it to my social media. So if you want to keep in the know, follow me and subscribe to our YouTube. That's the easiest, right? You're already here, people. Cool. So I'm going to talk about the domino effect of COVID-19. COVID-19 is changing our world in so many ways at the present, and obviously college admissions is no exception. And so I'm going to talk about some of the changes that it's bringing and how that's going to affect college admissions. One of the things that many of you might have noticed is that our economy, well, it's kind of tanking right now. And what do I mean by that? Our stock market has hit like all-time lows since Trump has been elected. The unemployment rate has skyrocketed. But what does this have to do with getting you off the waitlist at your dream college? Well, let's get started, everyone. It could mean that if you applied to an expensive private school, well, a lot of parents, to pay for that expensive private school that their kid got into, are going to turn to things like their 529. What's that? That's a savings account for college. And usually most parents have invested all that money in funds. And what are funds? Those are conglomerations of stocks. And what happened to the stock market? Oh, well, it totally dipped, crashed, burned. So that means all that money that parents had saved to send their kids to college, well, it might not be as much money as it used to be. And so number one, because your parents are feeling the crunch, just from investments, from an investment standpoint, a lot of families are not going to have as much money now as they did before the COVID-19 crisis struck. They're going to think twice about spending a lot of money on a college, and that's going to free up some spots at more expensive private universities. What's more is the rest of America is losing jobs. So even if you don't have parents who are investors, you might have parents who work, and you might have parents who maybe aren't even working anymore because they got laid off. As I said, unemployment's on the rise, so a lot of parents are feeling the crunch. They may have had to take months off their job because they've been told they're in a non-essential career, and those people aren't going to have the money to spend on their kids' education. So what that means is there becomes this sort of ladder drop-off, right? The families that might have sent their kids to expensive private school, whether that's elite total top 10 school or, top 50 school or whatever it is, might say, hey, rather than go to BU, it's a little bit expensive there. How about you go to this in-state school closer to us? They're offering you more money. It's close to home. Why don't you go there this year? That will save our family a little bit of money. You can go somewhere fancy for grad school, right? On the other hand, when you have working families who want to send their kids to a state school where there might not be as much economic help, you might be able to get loans and things like that, but you also are planning to pay your way through school in part on in-state tuition. Some families might say, hey, I don't think spending that much money on college right now is the greatest idea. Why don't you go to community college for a couple of years and then you can transfer to that state university, right? So we have this staircase of people making choices that are based more on their economic situation necessarily than their passion or their heart, right? And as that sort of trickles down through the college system, what that means is there's more spots at some universities, especially the private expensive universities. And the other thing that is probably going to affect overall is something called yield. Yield is the idea that when you get into a college, the percent of kids who accept that admission to the college, that's yield, right? What I think we're probably going to see is a reduced yield for really highly ranked schools. Anything ranked, from I would say even 0 to 100, anything that's expensive and private in particular. Maybe not at public schools as much, but we still might see some fall off there as well. Kids who would have gone to UC Riverside might go to community college for 2 years. It could also mean that those students aren't going to go to faraway schools. Usually when you go to a school far away, you do that because it's higher ranked or because it's more prestigious. So what that means is these schools at the top of the ladder, I would estimate, are not going to have the same yield that they usually have, because some families and some students are going to make that tough decision and say, you know what, let's just go in state this year. Let's save a little bit of money. Let's not overextend ourselves. Now, I know some of you are saying, but don't colleges meet need for students whose parents make blah, 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 blah. And yes, they do meet some need, but there are still a lot of students whose parents are kind of caught in the middle, meaning they're wealthy enough that they're not going to get a ton of aid, but not so wealthy that they have so much, cream on top that if their 529 account that had all the money for their kids' college in it totally tanks, that they still have the money to send them to Princeton, right? Those are some of the people who are going to be affected. And so that's going to potentially affect ability to pay. So again, all those expensive schools, those are the ones that are going to get some spots that open up. In addition to families losing money, colleges are also losing money. Most well-funded colleges have something called an endowment. An endowment is basically like a big lump sum of money. The super elite colleges have endowments in the billions, and they invest those endowments in the stock market. Sometimes they might have other kinds of investments. They have portfolios. They have these incredible fund managers who are managing this giant chunk of money. And you better believe that all those schools just got hit, meaning all of their coffers, all of the place where they're paying for their undergraduate education just took a huge hit. That means they're going to have to stop spending so much. How do they stop spending so much? Well, though the very elite universities may be able to just stop building pretty buildings, some of those more middle of the road universities who have endowments but don't have huge endowments are going to get hit in ways that they can't offer more aid. So, they may have already offered you an aid package, but if you come back to them and say, hey, my mom lost her job, now we need more money, they might not be able to give it to you. So that's something else to take into consideration. Finally, according to a recent student poll, about 1 in 6 kids aren't sure they want to go to their top choice college anymore next fall. And I think some of that might be related to the fact that college campuses aren't even open yet. There's so much uncertainty. Do you really want to pay all this money to go to Harvard when you might be sitting in a virtual classroom for a year, for 6 months? How long is this COVID-19 thing going to last? How long are we going to be quarantined? And then what happens after the quarantine? Are we really going back to life as normal? What's going on? I think there's just so much uncertainty and nervousness and stress that like a good portion of students are scratching their heads and going, I'm not sure. Again, that's going to lower the yield. Finally, one last factor that could lower yield is international students. So international students typically pay full fare when they go to colleges in the US. They're typically selected on a basis that is not need blind. There's only a small handful of schools in the US that are fully need blind and meet 100% of student need when it comes to international students. So when you're looking at that, colleges, again, are going to lose more money when those students don't come because they were the kids paying full tuition. But international students, travel uncertainties, economic shutdowns globally, they're also dealing with the same factors that a lot of American students are, and many of them may choose not to try to enroll, or they may not be able to enroll because of visa restrictions, travel restrictions. With COVID-19 still on the loose, we still may be restricting international travel even if students can go back to class, even if kids can go back to college campuses. Are we going to open up flights? All of these are unanswered questions for right now, and that could mean that some of these international admits are not going to take their spaces at these colleges, and that means colleges are going to turn to their wait lists. So, given all these factors that are basically financially crunching our country, we could see a big effect on college yield. And when yield goes down, waitlist admits go up. And that's why, if you've been waitlisted by your dream school, you may just get off the waitlist this year in a probabilistic way that may not have been available many other years in the recent past. In any case, keep fighting the good fight. Remember that you go to college is more important than where you go to college, and finishing college is more important than where you go to college. So I applaud you all for being interested and on it, and I know you are enduring tough times in this time of transition, and wish you all the best. I hope you guys like this video. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.